we do carry a certain level of responsibility on our part, and we need to take the necessary action to combat the effects of climate change. At the end of the day, it's our house that's on fire. You do not sit and watch the house burn to ashes. You get out, you do something to put the fire out and stop it from spreading, and at the same time, you're trying to hold the person responsible accountable. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. Hi, Arifanasia family, and welcome to those of you who have just joined the fam. It is so good to have you here. So, we are currently going through a series, Climate Change is Not My Problem, where we discuss all things climate change and why we should care and do something about it. If you have not watched the series from the beginning, please go and watch the other episodes as they contain some context into this particular video. So in this episode, we are going to be discussing the issue of who is responsible for climate change and therefore who should be cleaning up this mess. A common response that I often get every time I post about climate change and why we should do something about it is that the global north caused it and therefore they should come over here and fix it. And I actually just want to unpack that a little bit, just like, flesh it out a little bit, and that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So before we continue, just a quick reminder that Ira for Nature is also available on Instagram and TikTok. So if you don't follow us there, please head over there and click the follow button so that you don't miss out on anything that is going on this platform and the other platforms around law and sustainability. Alright then, so let's go ahead and unpack this issue about the global north being responsible for climate change and therefore we shouldn't do anything but let them fix it. Okay, so let's think about it this way. Say you have this very beautiful home, it has a very big garden, it's very lush green, and it's bursting with life, right? It's got everything that you ever imagined a garden would have, a home would have, right? And it's got all the fresh water in the world, breathtaking views, all the space you need and more, right? You do not even need to go anywhere to get things that you need because you can forage these things from the ground of your home and there you have the best healthy food available for you to eat. Life is great. Then one day in the middle of the night, or I don't know, in the middle of the day or whatever, and then one day you just like wake up and you start feeling this heat, it's intensifying, and you wake up and suddenly realize your home is on fire, right? Like literally it's all up in flames, right? You did not start this fire because obviously you were probably sleeping or lazing around somewhere, but it's on fire right now. So definitely it's not you who lit that match, right? And then you look outside, you're going to see someone maybe running away, probably the person who actually started this fire. And obviously the next thing you're going to think of is what you're going to do. And that's a question for me. And that's the question that I actually have. Like, you are in this situation. Home is on fire. You didn't start this fire, but your beautiful home, your dream home is on fire. What are you going to do? Are you going to stay in the house and watch all of your belongings, including you, burn because you did not start the fire and the person who did ran away? Or will you try to get out of the house, call for help to put the fire out, and make sure that whatever you do, you will not worsen the situation because it's just going to cause more damage? And you're going to report the crime, obviously, because you didn't start this fire and someone started it, right? And work with the police to ensure they catch the person responsible and hold them accountable. I mean, I don't know about you, but I would definitely pick option 2 as my immediate response to the situation because I'm not trying to die, okay? I'm not trying to die, so I would definitely go with the option of getting out of their house, sorting out this mess much as I can, and also ensure the responsible party is held accountable for this particular thing that they caused, right? And for me, this is so much more like the climate crisis. It is true that climate change responsibility is not the same, right? Some countries carry more responsibility than others, and this is why one of the most important environmental principles in international law, which we also find in the Paris Agreement that was concluded by a lot of the countries in 2015, is the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. This principle acknowledges that all states are responsible for addressing global environmental destruction, including climate change, but all states are not equally responsible for it. It recognizes that countries have different duties and abilities to address the negative impacts of climate change, but not all countries have an obligation to address climate change in the same way. So the basis of this principle goes back to our fire example. You may not have started the fire, but it is going to affect you. And if you pour more kerosene, you're just going to worsen the flames, right? So therefore, while we acknowledge that you may not have started this fire, and the person who did should be held accountable, you also have a duty not to do anything to worsen the fire and to do whatever you can to stop it from spreading. So basically, when we're looking at common but differentiated responsibilities, that's what we're looking at. We are not absolving anyone from responsibility. We are saying that we all have a duty to address climate change. However, other countries bear a much larger responsibility than others simply because, one, they are more responsible for climate change, and secondly, because they are in a more capable position to actually address climate change and its impacts than other countries. And this is essentially where the whole global north, global south debate starts, because other people are of the view that the global north started it and therefore they should fix it, and people in the global south need not do anything about it, right? Whereas when you're looking at this principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, it is saying everyone in the global north and global south have a duty to actually address and do something about climate change. The only difference is other countries are more responsible than others, and others are more capable of doing it than others, and therefore if you move along with that principle, it then sets out certain obligations for the various countries in terms of who does what and who has to be supported in order for all of us to fulfill that duty to address climate change. So when it comes to the global north and global south debate, the global north is significantly responsible for climate change due to its historical and ongoing contributions to greenhouse gas emissions. That is not even a debate at all. It is a fact, right? Industrialized nations in the global north have been primary drivers of carbon emissions since the Industrial Revolution, utilizing fossil fuels for economic growth and development, right? This has led to a substantial accumulation of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gas emissions in the atmosphere, contributing to global warming and climate change. However, it is also important to recognize that climate change is a global issue that affects all regions and requires collective action. Countries in the global south, despite contributing less to the problem, they often face the most severe impacts of climate change, such as extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and reduced agricultural productivity. And this disparity between the global north and the global south is generally why people insist that the global north should bear a greater burden in financing climate adaptation and mitigation efforts globally, right? While the global north has a significant responsibility to reduce emissions and provide support to mitigate and adapt to climate impacts, addressing climate change effectively necessitates cooperation and action from all countries, including those in the global south. It's just like we have seen the effects of industrialization. We have seen what using significant amounts of fossil fuels can do, right? So as countries in the global south, We have learned and have seen the impacts of this thing. So what we're supposed to be doing, instead of going down the same development path that the global north did, which got us to this point of, climate change and all the environmental destruction that is happening, we actually have an opportunity as the global south to leapfrog and make sure that we do not make the same mistakes, right? Which is why we still have a responsibility somehow to still address climate change and make sure that we do things better. We develop in a much better trajectory than the one that was followed by the global north. And this is essentially because countries in the global south are affected the most by climate change. We cannot just sit and wait for countries in the global north to come and fix it for us. What if they don't? Are we just going to sit and watch ourselves burn? We do carry a certain level of responsibility on our part, and we need to take the necessary action to combat the effects of climate change. At the end of the day, it's our house that's on fire. You do not sit and watch the house burn to ashes. You get out, you do something to put the fire out and stop it from spreading, and at the same time, you're trying to hold the person responsible accountable. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. So going back to the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities, it acknowledges that we are all not equally responsible for climate change, and we all have different capacities to address the impacts of climate change. And thus the Paris Agreement puts an obligation on countries in the global north to assist those in the global south to mitigate and adapt to the effects of climate change as we aim to keep the global greenhouse gas emissions well below 1.5 degrees Celsius. So the point I'm trying to make here is that climate change is an issue of collective responsibility. I think if you've watched this series from the beginning, it's what I keep emphasizing all the time. It requires collective responsibility. It's not a one-person job. You cannot just be looking at one person and say, they gotta fix it. We are all going to be affected by climate change. We all have a role to play in fixing it. At the end of the day, it's our house that is on fire. There is no time to be pointing fingers to whoever we think is responsible. No, it's the time to sit around and watch it burn. We have to get up and do something about it. We need to put the fire out despite who started it. And in order for this to happen, all the countries around the world need to work together. However, still acknowledging their differentiated responsibilities. The global north does play a vital role in addressing climate change. For instance, technological advancement and innovations in the global north can actually play a crucial role in combating climate change. So by sharing this technology and expertise with developing countries such as South Africa, industrialized countries can actually help build global resilience and reduce overall global emissions. They can also provide financial assistance to help with the losses and damages being caused as a result of climate change in the global south. So they can do so much more to assist and support countries in the global south to combat the effects of climate change. However, this does not mean that countries in the global south have to be complacent and just sit and wait around for the help to come. We also have to be doing something right now. So for instance, we've had quite a number of African leaders coming up and talking about further investment in fossil fuels, and fossil fuel extraction at a time where we are supposed to be transitioning to lower carbon economies. Now, our responsibility is to ensure that we actually transition to lower carbon economies and not invest in more fossil fuel technologies and more fossil fuel energy generation. And so when we speak of common but differentiated responsibilities, we are saying that sure, the global north has to assist and support the global south in dealing with climate change, and because they're also largely responsible for it. But we are also playing a part in exacerbating it through the continuous burning of fossil fuels and investment in fossil fuel extraction, right? So that responsibility we have to acknowledge, and we have to be accountable for that. We cannot say because they are largely responsible for all the burning during industrialization and everything that's been doing, then we cannot be held responsible for anything. We also have a part to play. I think one thing I just want to get across is that this is not to say that the global north is not responsible at all for climate change. But the point of this video is to dispel this myth and simply unhelpful approach which says As the global south, we should not be doing anything to combat climate change because it is not a problem we started it, and those who started it should come and fix it. That is not how we should be operating, especially when we are in a crisis and people are dying. Thousands have lost their lives, they've lost their homes, and we cannot just sit and say somebody else from another country far away is going to come and solve this for us. We also have a responsibility to do something about it while still holding those people accountable for the damage. So basically, while the historical responsibility lies significantly with the global south, the path to a sustainable future requires a united global effort where every nation plays its part in addressing the pressing climate issue. We have a role as the global south to ensure that even the global north plays its role in terms of the Paris Agreement. So basically that the financial, technical, technological support that they're obliged to give to the global south to mitigate and adapt to climate change is actually given. We should be focusing efforts on that whilst still also playing our role to ensure that we do not exacerbate the effects of climate change through our own actions and decisions. So we have a role to ensure that in our own countries, we do not carry out activities or make decisions that worsen the situation, such as approving more and more fossil fuel projects at a time when we are supposed to be transitioning to a low carbon economy. What I'm saying is, the fight against climate change requires joint efforts, and we all have a part to play. So get involved. Don't sit and watch and wait for somebody else to come and fix it for you, because it is your house that is on fire. Put the fire out. Alright fam, we have reached the end of this video. I hope you've been enjoying this series so far, and please do share your thoughts and any questions that you may have in the comment section. I'd love to hear them or and interact with you guys there. It also helps when you engage to push the video to other people who may find it beneficial too. Also, if you have watched this video to this point and you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? Please do click that subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so that you're notified every single time that I upload a video and you do not miss out on this series or any other videos on this channel on law and sustainability. Until the next time, stay tuned, keep fighting, and keep the end clean.